Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we are doing rosemary brioche. Here is a little teaser for how it will come out. Let's start by getting ready with your apron. If you own a white one, even better, because we will be using a fair amount of flour. In a mixing bowl, measure out 340 grams of bread flour, 24 grams caster sugar to give that brioche some sweetness, and 12 grams of table salt. You will need a hook attachment for this. Keep that on standby. Measure in a separate bowl 70 grams of room temperature water. We will be using 21 grams of dried instant active yeast. Sprinkle it over the water. Use a fork or a small whisk to mix the yeast and water together. Mix it until it fully dissolves. In another small bowl, crack 3 whole eggs and measure out 160 grams of butter onto a small plate. Cut the butter into small cubes. Bring out your stand mixer. Assemble the bowl with the hook attachment and pour in the eggs. Then pour in the water yeast mixture. Switch the machine on to medium speed. Let mix for 10 minutes to develop the gluten. In the meantime, take a small amount of butter and spread it around in a medium bowl. We will need this for later. Check the dough to see how it is coming together. Once you notice it coming off the sides of the bowl, things are headed in the right direction. Let that continue to mix until the timer goes off. Once the timer goes off, unhook the dough and roll into a ball to check the consistency. What you are looking for is a smooth surface and a nicely firm ball. Now place it back into the mixer and add about half the butter into the bowl. Let that mix. At first, the butter will look like it isn't mixing, but give it some time. This should take about 5 minutes. Once the timer goes off, add the remaining butter. You will have to scrape the bowl midway. Use a rubber spatula to release any unmixed butter from the sides of the bowl. You can also use a plastic scraper to get a better handle of the dough if you prefer. Let that mix for another 5 minutes. Slowly but surely, the dough will start to come together. You will know once it's done when the sides are clean. You don't want to overmix the dough because the mixer produces heat, and we don't want to increase the internal temperature of the dough by too much. Take the dough out of the mixer. Now is a good time to test the elastic nature of the dough. Stretch it by the corners and watch the flexible body of the dough. Now we're going to form the dough into a ball. Do a scooping motion from the bottom and let gravity do the rest. It takes some practice, but once you get used to it, you can do it with your eyes closed. My eyes are open for this. By doing this, you are creating a smooth top layer. Place some cling film over the top. Don't worry about the cling film sticking, just loosely touching the surface. Find a nice ambient location because we're going to proof the dough for 45 minutes. Watch it double in size. Peel back the cling film. See, it didn't stick. Use a scraper to help you in degassing the dough. Use your fingers to fold from the bottom and bring the dough upwards. Pat down to break any bubbles. Place to one side. In the meantime, take a baking tin with these dimensions and use some butter to grease the sides. Grease your hands as well. And while you're at it, the table too. Wax on, wax off style. That's a Karate Kid reference. Take your baby out and fold it on itself. Take your baking tin and do some rough measuring. We need to roll it out lengthways. Don't worry about it sticking to your rolling pin. We don't want to add any flour or oil at this point. Flip your dough to make it easier to work with. Pat down your dough to form the shape. Bring over your baking tin and measure it again. Almost there. Use your rolling pin with slight pressure to evenly level the dough. Now for that secret ingredient. I froze some boursin, garlic and herb. Use a microplane or grater for the next process. Grate generously to create a layer of cheese snow. What is there not to like? Rosemary, cheese, garlic and herbs. It's a win-win situation. Once you have a decent layer, fold one corner to the middle 2/3 of the way and press down gently. Adjust it if you have to form back a rectangle. Grate more cheese on the naked side. Now join the other corner to the middle. It should look something like this. Just the right size to fit in the baking tin. Take the dough from the underside and place down gently. Do some readjusting if you need to. There you go, nice and snug. Set the oven to the lowest heat setting. Spray your oven with some water to create a humid environment. Make sure to leave a gap in the oven door for better air ventilation. Check the temperature. That is a good proving temperature. Not too hot and not too cold. Set the timer for 45 minutes. Let it prove for 45 minutes or until it doubles in size. Look at that chubby dough. Take the dough out and turn up the heat in your oven to 190 degrees Celsius. Double check the temperature of the dough. It has risen very nicely. Once your oven has reached the correct temperature, place the dough in. Turn the baking tin around at about the halfway point during baking to get a nice even heat distribution. Now on to the rosemary butter. We will be using fresh rosemary. You will need about 10 grams. We want to take the stems away. Do that by holding on to the leaves and pulling on the stalk in one direction. Next, in a small pot, place 250 grams of butter and bring it to the stove. Turn on the stove to medium to high heat. Once the butter starts to boil, pour in the rosemary. Let it boil for 5 minutes. We want to cook the rosemary to release the flavor. Whisk the butter while this is happening. After 5 minutes, take the butter to one side and let it cool. Will you look at that? Nice even color, homemade. And there you have it, brioche. Now we're going to do the first round of butter glazing while the brioche is still hot. Splash a generous amount. We really want the bread to soak up that buttery goodness. After about 15 minutes when the tin has slightly cooled, then we can take the bread out. You will need to free it by wiggling the corners. Be careful because the bread is still hot. Once the bread is out, do a second round of butter glazing. You can clearly see the fold line. Look at that bounce. The moment we have been waiting for, time to cut. Time to make us an epic open-face sandwich. Glaze some more of that rosemary goodness. Place one salami on each slice. In the meantime, fry up 2 eggs and blowtorch the salami to char the fat so that it can render into the brioche. Blowtorch is optional. As we've said before, these are not low-fat recipes. If you enjoyed what you watched and feel more confident in making brioche now, please leave a thumbs up, comment and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, bye for now.